I'd just like to say something. Every once in a while I might tell a friend or some people a little bit of a story or something like that, but in order for you guys to catch me doing this on camera, like I really normally don't do this, okay? I don't normally give away personal information or situations that have happened in my life. I really don't see the point in actually trying to show people, you know, that I'm this tough guy out in the bush, okay? It's not about that. If I do tell you stories, it's about what's actually factually happened in the past. And in fact, I don't even really like, you know, talking about all these stories. I would rather just be who I am and my normal average Joe self. You could see a very large crocodile on the other side of the Olifants River. And to them it seemed like it was stuck on something. So I went down there with a couple of my field rangers, and so we observed that there was like about a 5-meter crocodile stuck in a snare. And the poachers were setting snares on the river to catch a croc. It goes without saying then that was a pretty hardcore situation. The problem was I had to swim across the river above the rapids to get to the crocodile. In the meantime, whilst we were doing that, the poachers actually rocked up. So we got them to help us. And they had already killed a crocodile the previous day. That was a 4.5-meter croc. They had killed that one, and they were then wanting to come and kill the next one. So because I couldn't prove that it was actually them that was wanting to kill the crocodiles, I had to release them after they helped with this whole situation.
I am Anke Krieg, and I am a field ranger and dog handler for Canine Conservation.
For me, conservation is not a job, it's a lifestyle. It's not something I decided to pursue. It was a person I was born to be, to watch out for bees and rescue them out of water, and to not cut down trees. And, you know, it's the simple kind of things to just keep the ecology and keep that balance. And that's really important. And for me, conservation is that respect that you have for Earth. It's not something you can be paid to do. If you're not a conservationist at heart, it's not something someone's going to train you to do. Obviously, there's a lot of maths and science that goes into managing wildlife and biomes, but if you don't have that passion and to protect nature for who and what she is, then what's the point of it, really?
Okay, working dogs in conservation, anti-poaching operations have literally become one of the very necessary tools that a well-operating unit should have, okay? Our nickname is K9, and we are highly effective and efficient at protecting the areas that we are contracted to. And they also know that don't mess with us, because if you do, there's a high likelihood that we will catch you. And the reason why is because the dogs are extremely well trained, and they are highly efficient and capable of following these human scent trails and catching these guys. The dogs are hungry. They want some food.
So sit first.
Good.
Good. Look at Ranger.
Ranger.
Come, Annie.
Annie.
Annie,
Hashtags. Ruckus.
good.
Good. Hashtags it. Good. Okay guys, so tomorrow morning is tracking training. What we use is we use raw stomach and intestines. So I'm going to defrost some of this so that tomorrow morning's tracking session, the entrails are ready to be dragged on the ground. So we don't drag it all the way along the ground. We drag it, pick it up, drag it a little bit, pick it up. And it simulates the bushmeat poachers who are out there in the field, and they are taking the meat out of the field. So often we're tracking these bushmeat poachers, and we're training the dogs with entrails from venison. So that's why they're so good at what they're doing.
We actually use a few different training techniques to get the final picture of these dogs tracking humans. Like most of these disciplines, it's more about learning the game than the actual odor. We need this dog to practice following a track, right? Sometimes it doesn't necessarily matter if it's a dog odor or human odor, but the act of actually following that scent is the important thing. They take advantage of every little thing they can to find the human when they're on the track. And they're actually going to track other things besides what we label as human odor, which is basically the skin cells that drop off of us as we're walking about. So one of these main things is labeled as ground disturbance or geodisturbance. As I walk along a natural path, my feet walking on the ground are going to disturb it. They're going to disturb the ground. They're going to disturb the dirt. They're going to disturb the flora that's around me. And all these disturbances give off different smells that the dog can actually pick up on. When I mash grass, blades of grass get broken and chlorophyll is released. And when I step on wet dirt, bacteria and fungi get disturbed and give off certain chemicals, and the dog can pick up on all these individual things, and they help the dog track to the source of human odor.
So a lot of our dogs are sourced through Canines for Africa. Viana van Weyerhaeusen does a lot of work with us, and we have a very good affiliation with Canines for Africa, who's a registered NGO. And she will go and look for places that need dogs. And she will sponsor the dog or receive a sponsor to source the dog. And we will do the training, and she deploys the dog where it is needed.
Canines for Africa sponsored this one particular canine to Timbavati Private Game Reserve. It was a canine we bred, one of the shepherds. And so she bought him and sponsored him to Timbavati, who was in need of another dog for their canine unit. And he's been paid with one of the best canine handlers that I've had the pleasure to work with. They have an amazing bond. They make an amazing team. The handler is extremely willing to work. He's a quick learner. He knows his dog in and out. He knows the dog is sick before he even really shows symptoms. He picks up on it. And that is ideally how you want every handler to be, is to know their dogs as well as they know themselves.
So I handle the Timbavati contract where I train canines, and I follow up with the training, with the progressive training, and make sure that they are actually progressing and learning more and more. The harness goes on. That's the uniform. The dog associates the harness with tracking or with detection. So when that harness goes on, then they know this is what I'm supposed to do. So you see that? You see when the dog is licking his nose right after he's absorbing scent? That is a sign when they're actually remembering the scent. They lick their noses, then you know they've got it. Okay. You're on the right track now, hey? You're supposed to go on the left. There. Good. Good boy. Your dog just fixed your mistake. What was nice about this track is that the dog was following the other person's track. So this hut belonged to track layer A, and he was on track layer B's track. And the handler didn't know which side to go. But then the dog turned towards the right side of the track. And that is really nice, because that is where you learn that you have to trust the dog's instincts more than your own capabilities. Right.
So, can I put a harness on? Okay. Sit.
So, do you know the difference between prey and defense drive? If a dog bites in prey, what is the difference than when the dog bites in defense? Did you notice when the dog had the bite arm? He wasn't looking at the suspect anymore. You want the dog when they bite the arm or the sausage. Even when they have the sausage, they must still watch the suspect. Because otherwise, it's more in the prey, it's not in the defense. Even though the dog gets the reward, you want to still focus on the suspect.
Other things we need to teach the dog are how to adapt and how to fight through pressure. This is probably one of the biggest ones. These dogs don't necessarily come out of the womb doing exactly all the things we want, but we're trainers, right? So we need to teach them these things. We need to teach the dog what we want to happen when they encounter pressure. We want to teach them to fight through it, to bite down harder, to push into those grips. And eventually we teach them by doing these things, the pressure will go away. It's a long, drawn-out process, but through hours and hours and weeks and months of training, it comes out looking pretty good in the end.
These dogs, they are different. They really are heroes. And that's amazing because they can go out in the field and they don't see themselves as heroes. They don't know what they are doing is extraordinary work. For dogs, they just go and they do it because they love it. And they're naturally good at it. And then they come home and then we relax with them and they're part of our family. And so I love that about the dogs, how balanced they are and how normal this all is for them and for other people. It's like amazing. They're not just pets who sit at home and do nothing like couch potatoes. These dogs actually make a difference in the world out there for animals. And that's really amazing. And for me, well, the dogs are not my work partners and they're not my pets. We're a family. We're really a conservation family. And they are an amazing asset and they're our brothers. We fight side by side alongside for a cause we believe in.
You can see the different characters when we take the whole pack out. But obviously, I mean, we live with these dogs, so we know their different personalities. Black Shepherd Anubis, his character, very self-confident and self-assured, highly intelligent, and also very loyal to me as his handler. He will do literally anything. He will give his life if he needs to. If it came down to that. I mean, that dog already has, I've been into some very hectic situations against human beings and wild animals, and the dog is constantly looking after my well-being.
Moving in was really, it was a breath of fresh air because for the first time in my life, I met someone who had the same ideals, the same morals in life, the same passion as I did. And that was amazing because I'd never met anyone like Con who really fitted my beliefs as much as he did. He was quite set in his ways, to say the least. It was interesting because he's an extremely empathetic person and super spiritual as well. And at the same time, he deals with hell on earth, basically, when it comes to wildlife trade and poaching and stuff like that. We were kind of a family from the get-go. Anubis was halfway on to my lap when we were sitting on the deck and just chatting, and I kind of knew, okay, these are my new children now.
I think that we both have that adventure gene and warrior spirit in us, and so that's why the relationship works well, is because we understand each other. And I think also because we're both operational out there in the field, and in many ways we have to trust in each other and make sure the job gets done properly.
It's very rare because there's not many women and men who operate in this field together that are in a relationship. And what's nice to me is a lot of people kind of assume that we were working together and then got into a relationship, but it was completely the opposite way around. We were in a relationship first, and Con was literally the only guy who was willing to give me a chance as a female anti-poaching field ranger, and didn't see gender, but kind of saw that passion and the drive to do this kind of job. Whereas all the other people I tried to apply for jobs, they kind of they didn't want to say it directly, but I 100% knew that it was gender-based question, or it was a gender-based assumption that I wouldn't be able to pull off the job. And Con wasn't like that at all.
In more recent years, women being accepted in the sphere and the job of field ranging or anti-poaching is a lot more accepted and a lot more understood nowadays, okay? I believe, for one, that women are every bit as capable as men in dealing in this world and in this environment of what we live in. and some men might charge into a situation using their brawn, whereas the woman will always use her brain. And that is very important in this industry. What we're doing, use your brain. It's not all about brawn. In fact, brawn is a lesser part of the whole equation. Use your brain, make the right decision, do the right thing. And this is where women excel. Okay, they do very well with this.
It's got quite a big impact on my family knowing that I'm not around the Christmas table because I'm out working and supporting Con and being his backup. But I haven't spent Christmas with my family or any holiday really for the last 3 years or so. And that simply comes down to being on duty. But I don't see it as a negative thing. I love doing my job. I love what I do, and I love being successful at it. The hardest thing for me, I think, that I had to experience since I started working for canine conservation was the first rhino carcass we saw, or that I saw. And that was a really, really sorrowful crime scene. The mother was shot, and she had a young infant calf with her. The calves and the mothers, they are so attached to each other that for the calf to actually leave the mother's side, it's very rare. And that calf just fled off and most likely died in the end without his mother. The hardest part though was when they started doing the post-mortem, they realized that she'd been pregnant with a young calf as well. And that fetus was fully developed. It was a perfect little rhino that you could like pick up, and they held the rhino in their arms. And I thought, it's so fucking unfair that one bullet killed 3 rhinos, and hardly any horn could be harvested. I mean, she was a dehorned rhino as well, so there wasn't a lot of money involved, as opposed to a rhino with a fully grown horn. But instead, 3 animals gave their lives for that small piece of horn, and that is so unfair. And that was, for me, that was the hardest part of my job ever to this day. It's not easy. It is not easy. Sorry.
In dealing with these things, it is what it is. It involves the suffering, the pain, the trauma, and the death of not only wild animals, of humans, of dogs, and all different situations. So, life on planet Earth, as we all know, is not easy. Everyone will be suffering or experiencing negative things in one way or another. Out here in the bush, that's why I always say we live in paradise, but we deal with hell. There are many, many criminals that are running around out there that we have arrested for serious crimes, and they're out on bail within 2 weeks there. So the judicial system has got a serious issue, and they need to deal with this thing now, because out of the 7 groups of rhino poachers, I'm talking about groups of these guys that we arrested last year, okay, 7 different groups. All of them pretty much are out on bail. We are trying to catch some of those suspects now again for the second time. And what will happen within the next few weeks? They're out on bail again. So it really sucks, but that's the reality of it. So it's getting, the judicial system, as I say, must wake up. They must, I don't know, let's see what will happen. Yeah, let's see what happens. But with the shooter fleeing the scene, and he's headed towards Acornhoek, there's going to be guys trying to stop him on that side, and he might turn around and come back, in which case we'll
That's what I thought you might do.
Yeah. So, why did you come here?
a nna bampeditša ko go tsebe ka mare ko re ka banana lebe ke ya go feta ke makete re feta re dula ka monokeng re loba dihlapi
serious fucker. Anubis, fui. Anubis, yeah. Come here, boy. Okay, leave it. Kuluma with this guy. I want to carry on. Come here.
You guys tell me, the audience, what do you guys think? Because from what we're seeing over here, we're not being backed up how we should be by the law. So.
They know it's the dog that becomes a problem for their success in the poaching industry.
We have been very successful, and there haven't been many fatalities. We've actually been doing very well, more than most other reserves, and I try and keep that in mind. I try and keep the positive side in mind, that there are reserves who are well locked down, who are looking after the rhinos, and there aren't any mortalities because of poaching. We're all earthlings, and we're all on the same level. And that's the thing that humans don't understand, is they seem to think that they own the planet. And they don't understand that we all have a place here on this planet, and that we are supposed to have a balanced existence with one another. And humans, unfortunately, have thrown that balance completely out of scale. And so I believe that my purpose on this planet is to try and put back some of what we have taken.
I think that every single human being on planet Earth, whether they have free choice or are able to have free choice, or whether they don't have free choice, still have the ability to respect the planet that sustains their life. So it's up to them as an individual, whether they do or whether they don't want to live in harmony with the earth, natural earth environment. It all depends on who you are as an individual. So you can become a destroyer if you want to, you can become a protector. Every single human being has the capability, however, of living more harmoniously with the planet and the natural environment. Whether they do that or not is very much their own choice and decision.